minute here. We're trying to get this thing to work. I'm trying to get this thing to work. If it will work. Close. Open. Refresh. And finally live. I think. Maybe. It's taking a while. Why am I not seeing anything? That is my question. Why am I not seeing anything? I'm not hearing anything either. Okay. We may be doing a live stream in the dark. If so, I'm sorry. Apparently, this OBS, something is not cooperating. I don't know what is not cooperating here. Crap. Well, welcome to Dog in a Tank comic chat. Apparently, we've gone to the dark side this day. Oh, okay. There we go. Maybe. Wait, there we go. Okay, it was OBS. I'm fighting with OBS today. Give me a minute. So, hang in there. Give me a few more minutes. I'm not that familiar with wrangling this. I don't get what's wrong with this stupid thing because... Oh, let me guess. It's zoomed in or something. I can't tell. Oh, wait, there we go. I almost have it. Maybe. Let me switch over to... It was working fine. I was recording something earlier, I think. It was working fine. And apparently it has since decided to not cooperate. Oh, that's irritating. Let me see if I can adjust it a little bit more. So now it's... This thing did update recently, so knowing my luck, since I haven't used it in a little while, it has decided to no longer cooperate. So, I will have to try to fix this whenever I'm not trying to live stream. So, I am sincerely sorry about what you're seeing here. So, let me zoom in here. Oh boy. This is not the way I would want to figure this out because it's never good trying to wrangle something when you're live. It makes me think, I don't know how to, I need to watch some videos and figure this. I maybe have an idea how to fix this. Let me see. How does this look? Well, I'm sorry about the screen problem because apparently this thing does not desire to cooperate this day. But you can hopefully at least see part of my screen that I want you to see. Which, this is irritating because this is not on my game plan for today. So, the thumbnail character, is Solomon, and pardon me if I take a while trying to talk because I'm also trying to multitask. and decide which is the lesser of two evils. Wait, let me go. Let me tip that up a little bit and see how that works. Anyway, it's Solomon, and he's sort of, he's an older character. He's the grandpa of the main character, Joshua Welker, and he's kind of an important figure in the Snake series world. I can't. You know what? I'll just live with this. Yeah, but he started off. I mean, I think he's basically been the same. It's mostly been his name that changed. So that's distracting. So he basically stayed the same except for some details. So in the middle here is Josh. You've seen him before, although you get to see more of him with his jacket on and armor and stuff. And over here on the left side is Esther King. And, well, heck, I can talk about Esther. Esther's a good one to talk about because she has an interesting story behind her because she started off as being Josh's older sister, I believe, and then I decided to scrap that, and she's now part of a different family for certain reasons and plot. I can't really say because spoilers. So I am going for a different art style for this story. A lot of a heavier inking, as you can see. It feels good to ink because I like the art style I came up with for Grieving Princess, but it doesn't really allow me to do much in the way of inking because it's very bare minimum, to be honest. And that's purposeful because I wanted there to be, you know, some difference visually in the characters, in the story, in the art for the stories. So this is heavier ink, and so there's that. I don't really plan this being a long live stream, but I figure I could at least show. I am still working on the website. This is art for the website, so you get a little teaser, I suppose. This is mostly just the line art right now. I plan on coloring it later, although I doubt I will be doing it during the live stream, so who knows? Who knows? This could take longer. As soon as I say it'll be short, I'll be on here for like an hour. As soon as I say it'll be long, it'll be over within the next few minutes, so my intention is that it will be short. But will it be short? I don't really know. So yeah, there's that. To get more into the story for this series, basically, you have Slaughterconda, who is a murderous psychopath who deliberately starts a war because, you know, he's bored. He's coming from basically a time of peace, and he's a violent person looking to basically attack others just because he can. And so he starts targeting, basically you have the main families involved are basically in the story. You have like the primary families that basically sent in like a small family to basically act in their stead on a political basis, if that makes any sort of sense. So basically he's attacking the other families who are part of the political ring or political council. And Solomon, of course, is essentially by default the head of one of these families. which is based upon the Gaboon Viper. And you're going to have, well, King is, I feel like that one is sort of, I mean, obviously it's a King Cobra. You will see some art where, or a panel where Esther is just doing the full on like Cobra stand, and she's got her hood out and everything. So she looks more like what you envision wherever you think a Cobra. They have basically like a tail snake mode type thing. They don't always use it. And I guess part of that is because I think in a way it would be easier to draw everybody with snake tails just because legs are a pain. But I also think it would have its own difficulties. Plus, I don't know, that I would probably have to really experiment with it more before if I were to go a different route, and I don't really plan on doing that right now. Maybe I could have some other characters that literally only ever use like their snake form thing. I don't know. You will be getting to see it from time to time. Solomon is not one of those unless it's like in a backflash that you will get to see that from though, because he was crippled thanks to Slaughter, because Slaughter is a very horrible snake person. I mean, he's um, basically, I think, sort of very loosely inspired by like Megatron, except Megatron at least had some reasons for, going against the caste system in Transformers, and Slaughter doesn't. He just wants to cause chaos because he can, despite the world being at peace, despite everything being in, after a long war, it's at a point where that's something they're trying to stay away from. So, yeah. He's just that kind of a horrible person. He doesn't have any actual goal besides just hurting people. And Solomon is he's very much if I can not choke on this word, antithesis, whatever. He's the opposite of that. The two are very much opposites of each other, because Solomon worked hard to basically end one war and then proceed to build the world into a more peaceful one, so that wouldn't be a problem anymore, or at least he wanted to create a situation where instead of everything going straight to confrontation, it could be dealt with via conversation. That's what he wanted to do. He wanted to make things better and encourage communication in order to prevent the problem. And Slaughter is just someone you don't talk things out with. He's just that kind of a horrible person. You can't talk to him about it. Or you can talk to him, but he'll just laugh in your face, because peace to him is just, boring. It's like, why have peace when I can do all these horrible things? That's Slaughter. That's Slaughter in a nutshell. Even though all Solomon wanted was so that his grandkids and kids could grow up in a world where they wouldn't have to worry about fighting. And instead, it's gone. Well, grandkids, since it's now just Josh. Although I think he sort of he kind of winds up adopting Esther. I will let the story speak for itself whenever you read it. So, yeah. And Esther's family is again basically part of the King Cobra family in the story, and they're really smart. They're very smart family. Like they're the they're the Elon Musk family, where everybody is geniuses. No, and that's nothing against Elon Musk. It's just I was trying to think of somebody really smart as a reference point. So basically, they're like that. They're very smart, and they are specialists in technology and medicine. There are other families that do specialize in like other parts of science in similar ways, but not all of them. So yeah, and give me a second here. There we go. I still don't get why that's doing that, but I can't. I was posting trying to share the link to this live chat, and it keeps showing Diamond Ace glaring down over her glasses at the viewer instead of um, the thumbnail for this, so that's kind of frustrating. So, what else is there to talk about? And there will be giant robots in this. um, what I have for that is still on my sketch pad, as in physical sketch pad. So that will probably have to wait till a later point for me to really start showing that off. I'm still working on ironing out some of that. Um, there you will get to see some in the first 22 pages, though. I promise you that. It's just what I have right now is a sloppy, rough draft storyboard, so I don't think you'd really like to. Anyone really like to see that right now. Grant, I will refine it the best I can before I decide that I'm done with it and I want to move on, but still. Uh, so yeah, and that's I'm sort of excited to get around to work, get to that point. I actually had Solomon's robot, and since I'm pretty comfortable with his, I'm still working on some of the others, but I'm pretty comfortable with his. I mean, I could change it, but I really don't want to because I like trying to hang on to like early of my uh development for the stories, because some of them I feel like it doesn't matter if it stays because it's not going to affect anything. So his is called The Big Indigo. Again, I don't have anything on the computer to show you currently. So maybe later on. And it's basically this giant machine that it can go under the earth basically, and it can burrow its way to the drop zone, so to speak. So that's what it does, and it's like one of the really big heavy hitters. And the story that will actually be like the first few, I would say 22 parts, if I can get the magazine up and going. And I can get to a point where we're doing like the first few parts. I decided to show more of like the childhood and backstory of like the characters, Josh, Esther, and I guess I'll go ahead and name drop him. You'll be seeing him eventually, anyways. Maybe not in this first part, but I'll drop him anyways. Rujo Copperfang. He is indeed based upon a copperhead. Yeah, I'm hit and miss with the names here. I'm sorry. Welker, and then we have Slaughterconda, and then we have Copperfang. So we have two here, and one King. King is like, after learning that there are king snakes that literally eat. I mean, king cobras eat other snakes, but there are also other snakes. There's the king snakes, and there's variations of them. and they also eat other snakes. And I don't know if that's something I really want to incorporate into the story, and that may be something I don't incorporate into the story, because I think I don't mind getting into like a PG-13 area, but I think that gets a little too dark even for my tastes, if you know what I mean. So I don't really want to go to certain routes with the character. So if anyone is like, "Hey, there are snakes that eat other snakes," will we see that? I'm just gonna go ahead now and say no. If anyone else asks later on, and you're like, just go listen to this live stream. It's not the best live stream, but I hope that this will end that potential debate. Although there will probably be people that will. I don't want to think about that. No. So yeah. So basically, machines like the Big Indigo are called LRFs, long range fighters, and they basically do that exactly in terms of they're piloted via, they can be piloted inside the machine, they can be piloted um like at a base basically, and you'll see that whenever I get to that point. So and my idea with that was to sort of, I was looking at like Pacific Rim, and a big thing with Pacific Rim, of course, is that you have the pilots inside the robot. But so my idea was to move away from that into, this has probably already been done somewhere, I'm sure, so it's probably not as original as I would like to think it is. But my idea was that to have an option for the pilots to be away from the machine, so that if something happened to the machine, then they aren't just trapped in there to get killed. Well, wait, to get offed, unalived, whatever is the fancy language on YouTube. And I'm not monetized on YouTube anyways, and if I were, I'd probably get demonetized. So I'm sorry for using that word, but you get my point. If you've seen Pacific Rim, you get my point. Even though I already said the thing. I'm sorry. So yeah. That was basically my idea with that. And it's not perfect because it also has its other flaws. And I'm looking forward to showing how the flaws can be exploited via a certain somebody who you have seen, but I won't say who. I don't want to give too many spoilers. I could easily give lots of spoilers. I'm resisting the urge to do so. But yeah, for this story, I actually had several different concepts in mind. I mean, I've seen Code Geass. It's not my favorite story, but I've seen it. And so initially, Josh was going to take more inspiration from that protagonist, but then after I wrote up a short story with him kind of in that mindset, I decided I didn't like it because he didn't feel like he was his own character. And so that was one of those drafts that will never see the light of day. But it was a good learning experience. And I think I did maybe 2 or 3 other drafts for this story before I finally created the one, as I consider it, because I finally just locked in on that specific one and decided to stick with it. And so, aside from basically deciding to add the bit about the younger the childhood of the main characters, that's basically my game plan, is to use that story. I actually had somebody read it, and I feel kind of bad because in a way I'll be scrapping part of, I think, the early part. Well, not entirely scrapping it. partially because it's being done in a different context, and now my thing is messing up. So yeah. I actually had a different outcome in mind for this part, for this first early part of the story, and then I got to thinking about it, and it's like, no, I don't really want to go that route. That's, for the most part, I consider my story finalized whenever I start the inking. Because once I start inking, I really do not want to redo anything beyond maybe small edits. I'm gonna tidy that. Yeah, I wanted to sort of go with more of like a classic comic style for this story. The heavier inks, some um, hash marks here and there where they hopefully belong. Some black shading here and there. I mean, arguably, if I do the black shading in the line art, then I really don't need like an extra layer of shading like I do for Grieving Princess. Let me refresh this. Okay. Because Grieving Princess, because darn it. Let me fix it. Because of the art style, it does need that extra layer to basically kind of compensate for what it lacks. But with I don't think I the the Snake series, as I've dubbed it for now. I mean, it actually has a title. Now finally, uh, Strategist Warrior Pilot. It took me forever to find that name because I did several. I tried to make sure nobody else had that name first. So I'm slowly working through the website, and this art, I think I said earlier, but I'll say it again, is for said website. I'm not 100% happy with this arm. It looks kind of janky. So I think I'll leave it for now, maybe edit later. So yeah. So this is sort of a little quick update stream and sort of promote the fourth series. I know I haven't really done much of a promotional live stream for Flowers of Solace, and not really for uh, Phantom Eclipse either. But I might get around to do like specific. I've talked about Phantom Eclipse some. And it's kind of the older sister out of the lot. Basically, in terms of like a timeline, if you'd like, of like creation for these stories is um, Phantom Eclipse, Strategist Warrior Pilot, uh, Flowers of Solace, and finally, last but not least, strike that, reverse it, is Grieving Princess. And both, I think, Grieving Princess and SWP, as I'll call it. I mean, they're both mouthfuls. but I'll go with that for now. They're both fantasy comics, basically. With different fantasy elements involved, although SWP is more like, I guess, fantasy science fiction because of the machines. I think that's what I don't know. Is there like a thing out there where it's like you have this and this for this genre, so this equals this? I mean, I would assume it would be considered science fiction, but I tend to write more than really particularly worry about genres. Although, or I tend to write with more like a specific genre in mind. Get this thing down here. Let's see. So yeah, I plan on. I'm still, like I said, all three of these are for the website. I hope to get. I'm trying to get that up. Technically, I already have like the art for Phantom Eclipse ready because I have art for. I have Echo's page done. I have art for Merrick and Serena, and it wouldn't take that long for me to do Draven if I have her already listed on there. But I wanted to knock out the newer series first because I have the least amount of art of those by comparison. I have a lot of art of Phantom Eclipse because I have literally been doing Phantom Eclipse officially since 2017, in my opinion. So I've been doing it for a while. I have sketches of this series in a notebook. I actually have said notebook, sketchpad right here for my reference. And I actually went through and I redid some of the designs because a lot of them are older, and it's sort of interesting to flip through some of the pages because these characters start off looking more human, and then they got more snake-like because, um, for various reasons. Uh, I'll maybe explain that later. I don't want to spill all my beans right here. Darn it. And I'm thinking this poor tablet is like, please, spare me. I've been overused. Yeah, well, unfortunately, buddy, you're gonna have to hang in there a little bit longer. It's been very, very well loved. Which is probably also my term for something that's been a little overused. Let me zoom out. I think I'm sort of going with like the shadows being in general from this side. So let's come over here and I guess darken this in. I have heard about that new Transformers movie called One. I think that's coming out in like October. That looks really good. I got to see Despicable Me 4, and that was fairly good, and that's when I saw the ad for it. Admittedly, I've been sort of avoiding some of the stuff because I get tired. There's a lot of drama around things, and in general, like whether or not something is woke anymore. And to me, it's just kind of exhausting because there's like a lot of people jumping to claim something is woke rather than waiting to see whether or not it is. And I just think that they need to, if something hasn't been clearly, it you know what, I'm just going to say that I just think that people need to calm down a little bit. I mean, I can't blame them in a way because, unfortunately, Hollywood has been very heavy handed with the, message in recent years. So I feel like I really can't blame people because it's sort of, I think, a reaction response. But at the same time, I do think that some stuff does need to be given an opportunity to kind of breathe, maybe. I also think that we should be looking at who is in charge of, like, the project. Because I think who is in charge will dictate whether, to a certain degree, whether or not something is woke. I think that's where we need to be looking, and then we need to be also determining the project by its own merits, whether or not it is woke. I just think we need to slow down a little bit before we start screaming that something's woke. That's all I think. Because I don't want to see projects that are truly not woke. And this is going to sound, I guess, a little controversial. I don't want to see the stuff that isn't woke getting punished because of the stuff that is woke, if that makes any sort of sense. I do think that to a degree, I'm going to be realistic here, to a degree, they are slowly getting just the other message that people are tired of this. And that's good, I think. Because the other end is whether or not they'll just go the opposite end and just be a lot more subtle with it. Like, you really have to kind of watch something and be seriously paying attention to certain things. But yeah. I don't want to see the wrong people get punished because of what somebody else did, because that's what it kind of feels like. So I've kind of seriously stepped back from a lot of the stuff that, is talking about, because some of the stuff just seems to be jumping a little too early. Like, give it a second, okay? Give it a second to sort of breathe. That's just my thoughts. Give me a second here. Let me feel out this arm. And no, I probably won't inspire anybody to particularly appreciate my thoughts because it's my thoughts and it's just what I think based on some of the stuff that I'm seeing. Although I think that if Hollywood itself is going to step back from, and namely like Disney Marvel, if they're going to step back from the message, then I think they need to be taking the comic. Yeah, that is off. The comic part of the company with them, because otherwise it's the same problem as before. You're not fixing a problem fully if you leave in part of the infection, You have to remove the entire infection. Otherwise, it's just going to sit in there, it's going to build back up, and you're going to be right back to where you are. And I think that's one thing I noticed years ago whenever I first became aware of, like, the situation within comics, and then eventually watching as movies itself became woke, is that, especially with Marvel, is that it just seemed like the comic section just kind of, it coasted because it had that protective shell that the movies gave it. And I think that's the only way they're going to actually have legitimate change is if they go in and they clean up the whole thing and not just be like, well, we fixed the movie part of the equation. You need to fix the entire equation. You can't just fix one part. But again, that's just my thoughts. Like I said, I've been sort of avoiding some of this stuff because it's exhausting. And it's not really something I myself want to jump into because there's so many people already covering this topic. And so the only reason why I even remotely feel like compelled to even say anything is just because I guess I would like I don't know. Basically just to air my own thoughts, I suppose. What's your thoughts? There we go. I'll fix that. That, and I think that if you're an independent creator, you need to acknowledge what is woke, but then I think you also sort of need to be able to not get so caught up in that, and then you need to also focus on working on your own stuff. That's what I'm trying to do because I did sort of the only thing I ever did sort of on that topic was I did a video on the Little Mermaid because it just seems so wrong what they were doing with that movie, and it upset me because I grew up with that movie. I love that movie. I have read the original fairy tale, if you want to call it that, short story by, I think it's a short story, I don't know, but I've read the original story by Hans Christian Andersen. So I guess for me, if I were to ever see like more of the Little Mermaid, anyway, I would like to see kind of like the original story adapted. I think that there is kind of an older anime movie that was done years ago in like the same where it was more accurate to the story, I believe. I think I saw it years ago, probably on YouTube. But I guess I would like to see that adapted because I think that would, that could be really interesting to see that get some love. Just on its own merit rather than the Disney version. And I love the Disney version, the original Disney version, and it wasn't broke. Like they were trying to act like it was broke because it wasn't broke. You're not fixing something if you're just tearing it apart. And that's my biggest, that was and still is my biggest problem with woke people, or woke stuff, is that they act like something is broke and they don't fix it, they just destroy it. They're not creating anything new. That's what makes me angry as someone who does create, who loves creating, because I have loved writing and drawing since I was little. And it's frustrating to see people who they get dream jobs because you cannot tell me that working for Marvel cannot be considered a dream job, because there are thousands of fans, forget thousands, there are billions of fans out there who would probably love to get a job working at Marvel, who passionately love Spider-Man, who passionately love all the characters, maybe not all of them should get the job because there should be equality, thing. Because some fans, unfortunately, will probably go go in the wrong direction story-wise, as in the fan art direction. And fan art, like I've said before, it can be a good thing. It can be a great place to learn, but it can also be there's a reason why people look at fan art sideways. But still, there are a lot of people out there who I think would love to have a job working for one of these companies. And I guess if anyone ever wonders, did I ever have a dream of working for, like, I love Transformers. Did I ever want to work for Hasbro or anything? No. I love it. I have enjoyed it. But I'm also kind of mentally exhausted from some of the woke stuff. So I want to put out something fresh. Plus, I feel like in a way Transformers is I think one looks like it's really kind of giving the original Transformers story a fresh look. So if they actually pull it off, then awesome. But I just feel like I'm not sure. I would have to probably really work at it to try to create something new in something that has been around for so long. If that makes any sort of sense. And I guess in a way that's why I don't really want to work and wouldn't want to work for Hasbro if I could work for Hasbro. Yes, correction, or not a correction, but an add on there if I have my own stories that I'm trying to tell that I'm passionate about, even if things are moving kind of slow. And that's okay, because slow and steady. Even if I wanted to be at a certain point yesterday, but that's okay. I think I could go and add a little bit more shading here and there. There we go. So yeah, I'm sorry if that got a little. I don't know. I think that's sort of not quite political, but I'm frustrated with certain things within that I see coming from the entertainment industry. I don't really air them because I don't know. I mean, I'm sort of airing them now. I've aired them now, so I feel a little bit better. But I guess my thoughts on the Little Mermaid was that if they had to do anything to try to be like a political statement, or rather, they shouldn't have done what they did as a political statement. They should have created a whole new character that has her own name, has her own look, has her own everything, and go from there. But that would mean that they would have to be creating something. And they don't want to create because then they would actually be doing, they wouldn't be destroying what they view as being a problem. And that's what it's all about at the end. That's messy. Because their goal truly isn't to create, but to destroy. And that's one thing I think I've heard about like Disney. There's some people that don't really care for the fact that they've done use like old fairy tales to create, basically they've tidied them up to create a variation on the story. They've done the Disney-fied version. And my thing is to a certain degree I view it as a way of keeping the story alive, because I think if it were not for like Disney's Cinderella or The Little Mermaid, etc., if it were not for these things, then I probably would not have felt compelled to like go read Hans Christian Andersen's Little Mermaid. I would not, because I wouldn't have that kind of you know, excitement about it. But because, or interest in it, but because I did see the Disney Little Mermaid, it made me want to go read the original story. And I think that if they serve any purpose, then they serve that purpose on that side of things. And that's, I guess, one of the things that I guess it's one of the reasons why I don't think I would ever want to try to do my own rift on any fairy tale unless I was trying to create an original story, like with Grieving Princess, because a lot of that is that I've seen a lot of uh, fantasy fiction. I'm familiar with it, and I think I've said this before, but I'll go ahead and say it again. I for a long time I put off. I had the idea for Grieving Princess last fall, I believe, or thereabouts. And I was like, no, 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 I don't want to do that because there's already so much good fantasy fiction out there. I don't think I could really do anything that would be new. And then at some point, I just said the heck with it, and I started writing. And sometimes that's what you have to do is just put pen to paper and begin writing. And how long is this going? 15 minutes ago. And thank you, dear watcher, for the like. Thank you so much. I think if I fix, bear in mind that I am kind of in the rough draft mode here. Not rough draft. I may go in here and change this. I'm not 100% sure if I'll leave that. But yeah, thank you so much for the like. So yeah, I think back when I was wanting to do more videos on like the Little Mermaid, I actually written up like different scripts because I had some ideas that I thought would be really cool to like put out there for different scripts, but different story ideas that I sort of wanted to put out there, and then I decided not to because to a certain degree I view certain things as that I could possibly dip into this later. So I really don't want to publicize anything if I think I may possibly use it. It's why I didn't start talking about SWP till now because I wanted to be absolutely certain in whether or not I wanted to get out there. And so now that I'm certain I want to get out there, I've got my story pretty much in mind. I've got my characters. Now is the time that I want to be talking about it because to sort of hark back to what I said during the last live stream is I can't expect people to be interested or supportive, and excuse the blooper, if they have no clue what on earth I'm doing. People need to know. So now that I've gotten to a point where basically most of my stories are to some degree either done or they're in the shoot, and then I'm in the middle of getting them done in terms of the art phase, then I want to be talking about them now. So yeah. Plus, it's nice to sometimes just do a live stream where people just pop in and watch me work, and then I can torture myself later when I make mistakes. But that's what I guess I love about art is that it is something that you can mess up with, and it's not that oh no I can never fix this sort of mistake. It's that I can learn from this. I can get better. And I kind of wish that there were more things that were kind of in that line of thought where you wouldn't have to be so worried about making a mistake. You could just do something and not worry about the mistakes. Because to quote Bob Ross, just make happy mistakes. As in ones that don't hurt anybody. And I think I'll leave that for now on Solomon. Maybe look at Josh over here for a second. I think that'll look a little bit better after I get the shading on. But yeah. Oh, I love little bits like this. I have looked at probably my favorite artist for like the hash marks or this style of line art is Tite Kubo because it is just gorgeous. He has some of the most gorgeous um hash marks. I mean, they're so thin, they're so articulated and gorgeous. So, yeah. And I guess I'm panning back over here at Esther. Part of that is because I want to see if there's anything else I want to change, but I also like this. I've seen this in like the 80s comics, and I really like how it looks because it kind of, it's a little bit of like emotion, I guess, and I like it. I've always, there's just some inking things that, as an artist, they're really satisfying to do. I forgot his belt thing. Who knows? Maybe he threw it away whenever he took the sword out. I don't know. I know I forgot now because I was looking at him like right as I was starting to do the live stream. I was like, crap, I forgot that. And come over here and tidy this up. There we go. Get my lines finalized before I go in and I start coloring. And just, if the screen goes dark, everything is fine. That is simply Clip Studio doing its thing. So let's give this thing a minute. And I'm still sort of concerned, like, what color do I want to make the armor on, like, Esther. I mean, Solomon and Josh are pretty straightforward because they're both, well, especially Josh is more like a field. He's like a the older Josh that we see here is kind of like a on the ground troop commander. He's that, or a captain. He is that sort of, that's his role. Darn it. In the field, basically. Esther is an LRF pilot. So is Solomon, due to certain things in plot that I will explain in plot. So yeah. And I could probably say more about Esther. I'm actually sort of debating that. I'm also sort of thinking that I want to let the story speak for itself. But yeah, I was initially planning. Let me see. Okay, I need to flip that inwards. I initially wanted to do like Japanese themed name or Japanese names, a blooper for the characters, but I scrapped that. And the reason I scrapped that was because I had the thought of, I don't want to confuse my American readers. So then it was like, well, what about biblical names, or at least mostly biblical names? Hence, Esther, Josh, and Solomon. And I was like, well, that's good because even if you aren't familiar with the Bible, they're very easy to understand names. They're very recognizable, very memorable. And so that is why they now have biblical names, is because I chose to do the I chose to think about my audience. And I try to think about my audience because I feel I try to put my shoes in my audience's shoe. I try to put my feet. I try to put my feet in my audience's shoes from time to time, and ask myself, well, and would that probably be popular, having American characters from American with Japanese names? It probably would be okay, I would think, as long as like the proper, you did proper research to make sure you didn't like give somebody a really bad name or something. I don't know, but it would probably be okay, and there are people out there doing it. But I wanted to kind of find my own way to stick out. And so I respectfully bowed out of that concept because I want to leave it to people who will probably execute it a lot better than me. There we go. I guess one thing I like about the thicker lines is that it does really good whenever I want to do this. The finer lines not so well, like up here, like her hair is not being deselected. But I think I want to kind of come in here a little bit, and there we go. Thicken it up a wee bit, darn it, as my pen decided to make a blooper. And we'll have to deal with that in a minute, but darn it. Oh, good heavens. Okay. Low priority. Okay, darn it. I'm just gonna have to go small. There we go. There we go. Now it's working. And thicken up this line a little bit. It doesn't matter for like these smaller lines you see here. These like facial scales. This is actually right here on her forehead. Those are scales. I actually had them going up high, up all the way to her hairline. Then I decided to bring them down a little bit. And so I kind of like that I made that choice because it makes her look a little bit more feminine. I like trying to make the right choices. I don't always make the right choices. It's part of being an artist who is still learning. Nothing is ever going to be 100% perfect. And come over here and we're going to erase this. Now this area I could probably leave as is, but I don't want people mistaking it for being actually part of the character design or something. Or looking at later and being like, I should have erased this. So there we go. I have tidied it up. So yeah. And I guess, I think Esther, is the character I struggled with the most to draw for this. I had a bout of art block this past, you can see this. I finished this. I actually have plans to do like a speed paint, but I'm just coming over here. If it will zoom. And we're going to stop and grind. I am sorry. But, yeah. There we go. We're back. Boop. And I'm going to darken that one a tiny bit. I think I have that one saved, perhaps. I could have it saved, but I also might not, so I will work with what I have. So, let this thing do the thing of making me spin my wheels. And there we go. So we're going to come over here and color the skin. And discover that I need to come in here and do some. Come on. There we go. Ah. There be my loose cannon. Then come over here and tidy that up. Just go ahead and just swoop in there. Much better. And I can just, I'm guessing because I made the line so thin around the lips. It doesn't really matter here because I'm going to be putting in that color on a upper layer, so it doesn't really matter as much. Okay, which way do I have the shadows again? Okay. I think I sort of did them with the mindset of like the light coming down directly, so make this a little smaller. Yeah, I was looking at various pictures. I was looking at Cobra pictures for reference for her, and they sort of have all snakes. I think have like different scale patterns or size of scales on their heads slash faces. And I noticed that like the king cobra has these almost armor like scales. And so I'm like, well, I like that. So I incorporated it into her. That's why you have these kind of have thicker, wider scales on her cheeks. Is because I was trying to lean into that. Let me come over here and do a little bit around her nose. And basically, the purpose of this is to help add some detail to kind of make make her face pop more than it probably would otherwise. There we go. This is the basically would be like the snake's underbelly here on her neck. So I will be coming in and using a lighter color to color that in, but this is like the edge of that. So I'm gonna be just carefully scurrying around, I think. Yeah, I try putting little scales here and there. Oh, hello. Happy Friday to you too, and same to you. Thank you for hopping on. So yeah, I apologize. Oh, well, that explains why no one's been complaining this whole time. Hello. I just probably went from really quiet to really loud there. I'm sorry. Uh, Happy Friday to you too, and I hope your week went well as well. Thank you for being here. I guess that's why no one dropped off. They've just been. Okay, well. Hey, there's nothing wrong with the quiet live stream. Nothing whatsoever. Let's see if it's going to cooperate and let me zoom in. Get that. So, yeah. Thank you for letting me know. I didn't know this thing was so low. Well, that's fine. So, yeah. Playing right there. Okay. Bounce back over here and get. Oh, darn. It makes me wonder if literally all this time I've been talking and no one has actually heard me. I don't know. It was coming in clear on my end earlier, but who knows? I had to fight with OBS earlier. It did not desire to cooperate for this live stream. So I get to notice that later. So yeah. Let me refresh this. Okay, here we go. live stream just to see what on earth happened. My microphone was maybe too far away. I don't know. Hmm. And this is a color I can go in and I can just put in because there we go. I like using flat base colors for like stuff like this because um, it's good to have just those basic colors in there that they do the purpose of filling the area. There we go. And they make other stuff pop, which is great. And I do not want to color it. There we go. Okay. Yeah, let me know if I get too quiet at points, because I will sometimes just sort of dip down because I'm not so much talking as I am just mumbling, I guess, about whatever it is I'm working on. I may change that later. Yeah, I may come over here and drop this lovely color in. I don't know, I may do a different color for him. I guess one thing I was debating for like the armor suits that they've got here, to like have them change based on the environment that the characters are in, just to sort of instead of the characters always having to change suits, like, oh no, we're in the desert, so now we need to bust out our desert suits, our desert camo, that they can just, I don't know, maybe hit a button and then be done with it. That was something I was considering. Let me refresh this real quick. Okay. Well, give me a minute. I will be back in a minute. Okay. And I'm back. As I erase something I did not mean to erase. So I will clean that up. There we go. So yeah. I've sort of admittedly kind of run out of things to talk about. I am hoping that at least part of what I was saying earlier got through. If not, um, I will deal with it. If nothing else, somebody got to enjoy a very nice and quiet art live stream. And I'm not going to be too I'm not going to be too upset because I am getting work done. And I have plenty of work to do. As I deselect the wrong thing. smaller, spikier scales. And that's sort of what I was trying to pull in with the scaling here. I specifically put the scaling there because the Gaboons have those stripes on their face, and that seemed like a really good way to kind of do double duty, highlight the detail, I suppose, in a way. Although since it's a darker color, I guess it wouldn't really be highlighting the color in question, but or highlighting the detail in question. But that was my thought. That was the thought behind that choice, that artistic choice. Um, okay. I can fix. Oh, I can. I think I can just go in there and gone. I think I want to just go in and make that considerably darker. I mean, there we go. And it looks dark now, but it will. I will add highlights later, so it won't be quite as dark. But yeah. So I'm going in basically, and what I'm doing here is I'm adding in highlights to help. Not highlights. I'm adding in the flats. I will add highlights later because I like doing basically flats, basic flats, shading, highlights, because once you get the shading in, then you know where everything else goes. Which is, in my opinion, that's a good way to kick it off, because then you're not just flying blind. Okay. And there we go. Now I'm gonna come back over here. Now that I've colored in that little the braces basically on Esther's legs, I can pop back over here and try to finish Josh. I wanted to do something else with his hand over here with the sword, but then it's like I felt like I was going into uncharted territory, and I felt like it'd just be better to leave it alone, and so he wound up with a sword in his hand instead. Because the last thing you want to do if you're not sure about something is to unintentionally use the wrong thing. So, to borrow a saying that I have heard, when in doubt, don't. And I put that right up there in that category because, and I'm sorry to anybody who had me cranked up and now all of a sudden I'm really loud because I just thought about that. I'm sorry. Okay. And Solomon is going to be like the easiest one here to color because I have him over here. If I can get this thing to zoom out. There we go. So yeah. I'm selecting basically these base colors because um I will be putting like the actual like armor padding on a different layer. So for now, I'm more interested in coloring everything else. Let me refresh chat real quick. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if you're looking at this Perfect Esther I haven't fully explained. But yeah. And I guess on the topic of the website, I'm still aiming for some point this month. That's why I decided to be working on this while I'm doing a live stream, because I want to knock this out so then I can focus. Okay, that's dark brown. I want to leave that alone then. So then I can focus solely on the comics by themselves. And then not worry about, not have the website dangling over my head. So that is, I'm still working on it. I'm like halfway done with it in terms of like the basic things I want to get done. And there's still more stuff to do. So it's just going to take a little bit longer. Scoot that back a little bit because I'm so sorry for anybody whose ears I blasted out. That was not my intention. And the reason, yeah. So yeah. I don't think I want to drop that on that layer. Let's not. There we go. That's better. And while I'm at it, I'll just fix his brace here. There we go. And go back up. So yeah. And where can you find certain things whenever I get them done? I'm over on Twitter. Look for Dog in a Tank comics or comic. I think I wound up just doing Dog in a Tank comics because it wouldn't quite fit. So look for Dog in a Tank comic, and you will see, I believe, Echo. Kind of an older piece of art of her on my profile picture. I'm just gonna go ahead and drop the client everywhere. Yeah, I guess I've kind of gotten boring because I can't really think of anything else to talk about. Wait. And of course I did. Oh, thank heavens for the back button. Yep. Technology is a wonderful thing. And then I'll probably be complaining about it the next stream or some point because it's really frustrating whenever it doesn't cooperate. There we go. So yeah. I think I might go ahead and wrap this stream up. I mean, thank you all so much for dropping in. For those of you that did during the live stream, thank you to anyone who pops in later to listen through it, if there's anything to listen through. No, I'm not sure what there was. I'm sorry about the technical difficulties, but it seems like at least every other live stream starts with a technical difficulty. So, if you would like more, again, if you'd like more consistent updates or updates whenever I put out updates, because I only really do updates whenever I have something. Again, I'm over there on Twitter. It's like my most active account for my stuff. Um, so yeah, pop over there at Dog in a Tank Comics. Give me a follow and a few likes. And hopefully I shall see you next live stream. don't live stream as much as I should probably do, but yeah. So I'm gonna give this a minute to get through that